recording the class already. So can somebody just start?
Okay. Father, Lord, we want to say thank you. Lord, we want to thank you for our tutor or lecturer for this particular course. And we want to thank you for every one of us that we have made up our mind to write for this diet, November diet. We say, Lord, we ask that you will grant us retentive memory, understanding, wisdom for us to have a good success in the name of Jesus.
Amen.
And we pray that every of these sections that we're going to be taking, we ask that you will grant us speed, understanding, and the Lord, we pray that you will strengthen our lecturer, even to help us through in the name of Jesus.
Amen.
In Jesus' mighty name, have we pray.
Amen. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Amen. Amen. Thank you very much. Welcome to November diet preparation. It is our expectation that we're going to have a swell time, and our efforts is going to yield good success. And as students, what we're expected to do as we prepare for these exams. And as I discuss that, I'll quickly also introduce the topic, which is limiting factor. Yes, talking about performance management. Performance management oftentimes is being seen by students as something complex and something that is very difficult, but based on my own perception and based on my own experience, I would say it's our level of preparation matters. Yes, as far as this course is concerned, there is nothing that you cannot know, but it depends on your approach. So that's on your approach to the subject matter. So performance management is a very wide topic with different dynamics and the quite a number of things that we must know as we plan for these exams, as we study. So one thing I want to say is that even at exams, you will never feel completely ready. For those that have been writing this exam over time, even 2 days to the exam, you still see them saying that it's as if I've not read anything. It's as if until you write that exams. So now, some of the tips I'll be giving is that even as we study, I'll referring us to various past questions on every topic. If you observe past 2 to 3 diet now, they will definitely repeat 2 questions, most likely from the past question, and either pick one from the just concluded exams. 2 questions were from the ICANN past question, 1 from the pilot. So definitely this has been their pattern for the past 3 diets now, until the introduction of the new syllabus, where they are now picking 1 or 2 questions from the pilot. So we must start practicing question early. Now, start question practice before it feels comfortable. So there will be no time where you will be comfortable to start practicing questions. You must start practicing your questions now. So because when you practice will reveal knowledge gap. So as we treat each topic, I'll be referring us to the questions in the Pathfinder, and in my have it. For those that don't have it, you can reach out. I'll send to you. So when you practice, you will see where you need to be for. You will see your weakness, and you work on your weakness even before the exams. One thing we must note is that revision and practice happen together. As you practice, you're also revising. It's not until when it is 2 weeks, you now set special time for revision. To me, that is a crash program. As you practice, you revise. My students do observe when it is like 3 weeks to exam, I will always say go and study, but still they always want to draw me back for revision. Yes, I believe the best revision is that is my own concept. That is the way I work, and it might be wrong, yes, but that is how it works for me. That I need to sit down with my book where the gap is, and where I I look for how to be is very important. And as we practice, we must learn time management, and we must create examination conditions for ourselves as we practice. So even don't prioritize perfection. Yes, but you can have a good attempt. You can have a good attempt. So even as we practice, as we do our classes, we'll attempt questions of varying difficulty. We'll see questions in diverse ways, because sometimes what you learned in class, you might see another side of it in the examination. So it is when you practice questions in diverse ways on a particular topic, that is when you get examination ready for that topic. But when you just pick a single aspect and not touch the whole thing on that topic, questions, you might get frightened. You might get frightened. So, and as students that want to write this exam, for each of your paper, you're writing PM, FM, study the examination technique for each section. For question 1, which is normally 40 marks, section B, section C, in that order. Know how question comes on every area. And sometimes know what works for you. It's very good. I would advise you learn to practice in the morning. Yes, learn to solve questions early in the morning. And once you try to solve questions and you're having difficulty in trying to untie the knot, leave it. Go back to it again when you are fine. If not, you will always feel as if the concept is difficult, but it's just that you stress yourself too much, and there's nothing that can work at that point in time. So learn to practice in the morning, then sleep early, wake up early, and pick these calculations and see how you can work on them. And as we practice, solve, or interact in the course of our class, have a mind map. A mind map. There are some concepts that you just picture. Have a picture of them. For example, the theoretical concepts, you create a mind to solve questions. Can you hear me, please? Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I can hear you, though it's breaking sometimes. Though it breaks sometimes.
All right. So there's, yes, for limiting factor. All right. I discovered that. So there are steps that we can follow. For example, on limiting factor that I will discuss, you will see the steps. But sometimes question can come that will move you away from that step. So these are some So I want to link our preparation to the concept of in athletes, we have some techniques and we can apply those techniques. A successful athlete does not become a champion by relying on talent alone. The fact that you are very good at 200 is bad somehow. So as I was saying that they do is that they follow a disciplined training routine.
Sir, your voice is going on and off.
Of certain ways. So borrowing this concept from all these practical things I'm seeing around me, that same some disruption. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, for now, but
Yes, we
Even
can hear
great,
you now, but the
great.
network keeps going on and off.
Okay, all right, okay. The I'm not even option that I can switch to. Comparing an athlete technique to that of a student, the athletes, they'll always set clear performance goals, what they want to achieve. Before every competition, they'll tell you they want to win. So as students, specific academic goals, such as passing all our courses. So this is just the goal will drive you. But when you don't, so let's set a clear academic goal, even as we hope to excel in the forthcoming diet. One thing you observe about athletes is that they follow a training schedule. Those days while we were small, you see these people that play football early morning, they're already on the pitch. In the evening, some of them are there again. You understand? They don't miss it. They don't miss it. They follow a training schedule. So as ICANN students, let's create and follow a study timetable and be consistent with it. Yes, I know most of us are working class. Sometimes after work, you're tired, you don't even know what to do. To read is difficult. Yes, but within this period, just try and see how you create and follow a study timetable for yourself. Have it placed in the wall where you can always see it in your room. So when you look at it, you know you have an assignment that you need to meet up with today. Yeah, so this is very important. This is very important. And if you look at success most of these athletes, footballers are achieving is practicing. So as students, questions and practice exercises frequently. Yes, one of my future is that I always give assignments. Always give assignments. Yes, we do class exercise. So all these things being put together is expected to make us achieve good success. Now, one thing we must not run away from is that we must recognize our weakness. Yes, definitely some students don't like some topic. Some of them will tell you they don't like variance. Some of them will tell you they don't like this. Now, one thing you will discover what these athletes do is that they focus on weak areas and try to see how they become strengthened. So as students, identify and devote what? Devote extra study time to them. Yes, there is no topic that you cannot understand. So once you identify that this topic is giving me some headache, see how you can understand. I've seen people telling you that this variance is something else. What you can do, you can understand it, you can know it. Yes. Create time for it. Don't say, don't, don't don't appraise that weakness and say this topic I'm running away from it. You don't know what the examiner is coming up with. So please, and let's always try to seek guidance. Yes, where you are finding difficult, always reach out to me. I'll definitely give you time. That is why I'm starting early. Yes, that is why I'm starting early. For those of us in this class, it is assumed that we've not attempted it. We didn't attempt the last diet, and that is why you are here. For those that attempt the last diet, I'm praying that they pass. For anyone that is coming after the results, I know how to handle them. Yes. So always try to come up. We are not much. When it is 2 weeks to the exam, 3 weeks, I get too much messages. I don't even know, but God is helping me to see how I respond to those messages. But for now, let's use the opportunity well. Yes, even though I'm still busy, but I can still cope with the number I have here. So it's not by having too much students, but let's have a class that will achieve what we want. So, and as we study, we must learn to eat well and do some moderate exercise. Some of you can sit down for long without standing up. Though it also happens to me sometimes, I can sit down over time, but it's not good for our health. So, and we need to get adequate sleep for better concentration. This is very important. Now, one thing with us, this is the best time to study. Don't procrastinate. Don't procrastinate. Tonight, I'll give you assignments. Don't procrastinate. Don't procrastinate. So we must stay disciplined and committed. So avoid procrastination and remain focused on study objective. This is very important. And we must stay positive. Please, let's stay positive. Yes, some of you might have been hearing result will come out. You hear some people will tell you this, tell you that. But stay positive. Tell yourself, I can do it. I can do it. And persevere. Yes, you need to persevere. There will be sometimes you are trying to solve a question, but to look as if you should give up. Who asked you to engage in ICANN? This, you need to persevere. You need to persevere because there may be some topic that might not be pleasant to you, but you must see how you learn those topics. So one thing you observe with these athletes is that they don't go to the field and start preparing. You must prepare before the competition. You must prepare before the competition. So as students, we need to revise thoroughly and organize materials before the examination. All you need, if you don't have the ICANN past question, reach out. I'll send it. Or I'll even forward them to the group. I'll forward them to the group. So get all you need. Get your notebook, organize notebook. Don't go and use that jotter they gave you in one wedding. That one is not a notebook. Buy a hardcover note, a good hardcover note. Those long one, then you write topic by topic. You solve questions. That is when you are prepared. Because some people will go and use the wedding jotter. They've given them in one wedding, all those things. And some people, their note is so rough. The last diet, somebody will be sending an assignment on a rough sheet. On a rough sheet. You know, what you send to the group shows who you are. So get a very clean book and send clean assignments. Yes, when you are using rough book, as if I need to iron the book before I can see what is there. So please, let's stay organized, and this will help us in a great way. So just as an athlete is preparing for a championship training every day, and the athlete follows a strict routine, the athlete also studies opponents. The athlete also reviews what previous performances. As ICANN students preparing for November diet, we should study consistently and practice past questions. This is very important. We must identify our weakness and see how we improve on that weakness. So we must not run away or shine away from that. Accept that, but see how you improve on it. So to be a champion is not during the exam. Champions are made during training, and we've started our training now. You don't become a champion on the day of the competition. You don't become a champion 2 weeks to exam, you start rushing. I don't like that, but I discover most students, they appreciate that concept more, that rush hour. But to me, I don't like that approach. So as far as you're in this class, please, all we'll be doing, it is expected that we'll be able to cover all we need to cover before the exams, and you should be very much comfortable and practice and teach people likewise. So our exam success is determined by the quality and consistency of our preparation before the examination, not during the examination or the day of the examination. So we must remain focused and see how we can achieve all this. So God will help us, and see how we become better day by day. Yes, I'll become better day by day. So we're going to move to the business of today. I'm just going to introduce the topic. But before then, let's look at the content of performance management. Let's look at the content of performance management. Please, if you don't have the ICANN study test, you need to get it. I will send it also on the group, because this is what I can recognize as your primary study material, and I don't run away from it. Yes, I also, even as I use other tools, other materials, I make sure I make reference to this material, because this is the primary material. Those students will complain that it's voluminous, is this, but this is what I can recognize. Yes, even though students will say questions are being lifted from certain points, but I will not. This is what a primary resource you have to make use of in conjunction with other materials that you might have. So when we look at the content of performance management, what we are expected to do as far as this course is concerned, you can see in summary, we have management information system and data analytics. The weight is 10%. We have advanced costing techniques, 15%, decision-making techniques, 25%, budgeting and control, 20%, Performance measurement, control and management system, 15%. Performance evaluation and corporate failure, 10%. Emerging issues in performance management, 5%. Now, these are just summary. Under management information system and data analytics, we have quite a number of topics under it. Yes, quite a number of topics under that. So, and under advanced costing techniques, we have quite a number of topics under that. We have quite a number of topics. And also under decision-making techniques, we have a number of topics, and budgeting and control, quite a number of topics under them. So all these are what we're expected to note. You can be asking, what is the meaning of this weight? The meaning of the weight is that decision-making techniques consist of 25% of decision-making techniques in the syllabus as a whole is 25%, which shows that the examiner will likely test questions on these topics. That is in implication. It's covering a whole lot of the syllabus. So now we're going to start with an aspect of it, which is decision-making techniques, which limiting factor falls under. So we're going to be talking about limiting factor. We're going to introduce limiting factor this evening. Hope you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you, sir.
Okay.
It's fine. So we're talking about limiting factor this evening. So when we talk about limiting factor, from the English word limit, limitation, from the English word limit, limitation, is all about constraints, bottlenecks. As businesses operate, they are faced with diverse constraints. They are faced with diverse limitations. And the essence of a business is to make profit. Now, as you set up your business and certain factors are trying to obstruct the achievement of your overall business goal, which is to make profit, what do you do? Now, this limiting factor, they are otherwise referred to as what? Key factor. They are otherwise referred to as what? Constraints or bottleneck. So a limiting factor is any resource that restricts an organization's ability to achieve higher level of what? Output, sales, or profits. Take note, any resource that can stop you from achieving higher level of output, from producing more, from making more sales, from making more profit. That resource, when it is in scarce supply and its unavailability is causing a setback, that resource will be termed as what? Limiting factor. Will be termed as a limiting factor. So in simple terms, I will say a limiting factor is that scarce resource that prevents a company from producing or selling as much as it wants. Now, what are examples of this limiting factor? What are examples of limiting factor that can face an organization? One, we can have the case of raw material. When you have demand of, let's say, 20,000 units People are expecting you to supply 20,000 units of product A, but there is a limitation. You cannot access raw material to meet up with this, your customers' demand. If the raw material is not available in excess supply, hence the raw material becomes a limiting factor. But when you have sufficient raw material to meet up with that demand, the raw material at that point is no longer a limiting factor. But where the raw material is in short supply and what you have can only produce, let's say, 15,000 units, it shows that you will lose some money because of the limitation of raw material. Also, in some instances, labor can be a limiting factor. Labor can be a limiting factor. That is labor hours. Labor hours. For you to meet up with a demand of 20,000 units, let's say you need 50,000 hours, 50,000 hours in a week, but it's not possible. You don't have it. So in that case, labor will be a limiting factor. Will be a limiting factor. It can be machine hours also. It can be your capacity. Even when you produce much, how will you store it? Where will you keep it? You don't have the storage facility. You don't have the warehouse. You don't have the refrigerator. Maybe you are producing goods, products that can deteriorate easily. Hence, you don't have how to preserve them. The capacity, the production capacity, the storage space will be a limiting factor. It can also be in form of finance. You don't have sufficient capital to expand. Even though the market is there, you cannot penetrate. You cannot explore new opportunities because of what? Limited finance. Because of limited finance. And also, limitation can be in form of demand. Maybe there is a quota that you have to produce every day. Though you have the resource to produce to any length on a particular day, but since you have an organization that is controlling your production, for example, OPEC, controlling production of fuel. So once there is a restriction to what you can produce, you must not go beyond that. So it can be restriction in terms of what? Market demand. And the restriction can also be in the form that even when you produce excess, you produce less than 1,000 units, but what you can sell is just 500 units. It means that when you produce 1,000 units, the remaining 500 will be a waste. Your goal of being in the business is to make profit and not to run charity organization. So you have to produce what you can sell at that point in time. So all these can constitute limitation. So when we talk about limiting factor, we can have a case of single limiting factor where you just have just one problem. You can have a situation where the organization is faced with more than one limiting factor. What do you do? In that case, you use linear programming. So most times, the problem usually comes when students see question and the question is looking as if this is a linear programming question or this is just a single limiting factor question. What do you do at that point? What do you do? You have to test and see, is it true that we have two limiting factors? In most times, it will not be true. It will just be one. In some cases, the question will make it clear that labor is limited to this, machine hour is limited to this. They will give you the values clearly. Emphatically, they will tell you that the constraint is this, the maximum you can produce is this. All these synonyms will be used to portray limitation in a question. So when you see this, you know these are limiting factors. So when a question is just only having a single limiting factor, we're going to use the approach we're going to show tonight to solve it. Where is having more than one limiting factor, linear programming is calling. So to solve questions on limiting factor, we, 've, 've 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 'ave 'ave have the following steps. Number one, you can identify the limiting factor, because when you don't know what the limiting factor is, you will not even know how to start. You will not know what the next step is. So you must know the what. When you know the what, you can now know the why. So when you know the what and you identify the why, then you can now calculate. But where this is missing, you don't know what is happening, you cannot move further to know why it is happening, hence you won't be able to calculate. And that is one of the major pitfalls we experience during the exam. So you must be able to identify what is this. When you identify what is this, then you go further to know the why. Then when you marry both together, you'll be able to apply and calculate as expected. So to solve questions on limiting factor, you need to identify the limiting factor. What is it? Is it labor hours? Is it material? All this we must identify in a question before we move ahead. So once you identify the limiting factor, you can go further to do what? To calculate your contribution. Please take note, there are two steps to contribution. We have what we call contribution per unit. Contribution per unit. For you to calculate contribution, it is what? Your selling price less variable cost. Selling price less variable cost is contribution. So in a question, you can be given selling price, then you are giving issues of variable cost. What are variable costs? Variable costs are cost elements that varies with the production process. For example, material is a variable cost. Why is it a variable cost? If you want to produce 10,000 units of a product, the quantity of material you will use will vary when you want to produce 20,000 units. So it means material move in relation to the quantity that will be produced, hence is a variable cost. But where a cost is constant, it does not change. For example, let's say things like machinery cost. If you have a machine that can produce 10,000 units and you are using that machine to produce 2,000 units, it is the same fuel you still incur when you are producing 10,000 units, you incur when you are producing 2,000 units. So it only shows that you are not using the machine to full capacity. Hence, it is a fixed cost that irrespective of the quantity you want to produce, you will still incur that particular cost. That is why it is termed as fixed cost. But for you to get your contribution per unit, it will be your selling price minus the variable cost. If you look at the screen, you can see the selling price, the variable cost, direct material, direct labor, variable production overhead. When you less, you have your contribution per unit. Contribution per unit. Take note, when you see just overhead and not variable production overhead and not fixed production overhead, take note, there is a pointer. It shows that that overhead consists of both fixed and variable elements. But where it is specific that variable production overhead, it shows the overhead is variable. Where it is specific that fixed production overhead, it shows that that overhead is fixed. But where it is silent and put as just overhead, confusion sets in at that point. So at that point, you don't use it because it is not specific. But in most limiting factor questions, there will definitely be defined and make it clear that this is variable so that you know whether to use it to determine your contribution per unit or not. Where the examiner will come in a shady way is on the issue of budget and budgeting control. Okay. All right, sir. At what point, sir, do you want me to come again, sir?
Just the difference, that is when to apply if it's a variable cost or fixed overhead or variable cost, something like that. I missed
Okay.
it.
All right.
Thank you.
So when we see overhead, overhead in a question, overhead consists of two form of cost, variable and fixed. Variable and fixed. Because when we talk about overhead, overhead refers to all indirect costs incurred in the production of goods or provision of services that cannot be what? Directly traced to a specific product or job. So all those cost elements, such as salaries, electricity, all these are overhead. They cannot be they are not traceable to the production process. So, but the components of this overhead, some are variable, some are fixed. So, where the question is not putting it expressly as fixed overhead, as variable overhead, you don't just apply it in computing your contribution. Yes. So, in most questions on limiting factor, the examiner will be direct by telling you that this is variable overhead, this is fixed overhead. So where you see fixed overhead, you don't use it to determine your contribution per unit, because to determine contribution, it is selling price less variable cost. So where the overhead is having variable production overhead, it means it is good to go. It can constitute part of the cost element you less from selling price to get your contribution per unit. But where it is fixed production overhead, don't say because it is overhead, it is a variable cost. It is actually a cost, but it does not vary where it is fixed. So you don't use it to determine your contribution per unit. Why am I saying this? Some students, when they see overhead, they believe, yes, overhead are expenses. Overhead are variable. No, it's not all expenses that are variable. Yes, some are fixed. Your salary is not a variable cost, because your salary can be fixed for 1 year. Your salary can be fixed for 2 years. It is after some time, due to inflation, the employer of labor can now say, or due to promotion, they can now say, let's top up your salary. But over time, based on the budget, when they're preparing the budget for the year, your salary is captured and it is assumed to be fixed for over the 12-month period of the year. So when issue of salary cannot come as variable, because they do not vary with the production process. So let's take note of that. So most times students usually come to a point of confusion in relation to issue of overhead and variable cost. Hope this is clear, please. So step 2 is to calculate your contribution per unit for each product, which is selling price less variable cost. Now, I said earlier on that there are 2 steps of contribution. When you determine your contribution per unit, that item that is a limiting factor, you need to get the proportion that will be required to produce 1 unit of each product. For example, if material is a limiting factor, you ask yourself, how many kg of material do I need to produce 1 unit of product A? How many kg of material do I need to produce 1 unit of B? How many kg of material do I need to produce 1 unit of product C? You need to ask yourself. Some questions will not give you directly. You will need to solve for it. So we'll see that in an example. So once you determine the quantity of material required to produce 1 unit of a product, for you to get the contribution per limiting factor, which is the next stage after determining your contribution per unit, you move to calculate contribution per limiting factor. What is that limiting factor? You need to get the contribution. Once you get the contribution per limiting factor, then you rank. So let me say this again. I said contribution. How do we get contribution? In the first instance, selling price less variable cost. Another way you can get contribution is what? Profits plus what? Fixed cost. Please write it down. You can see it in red here. Contribution can also be derived where you are not giving selling price, you are not giving variable cost. You can be giving these variables. You can be giving contribution, you can be giving fixed cost. And the question we ask you, determine the profit. Where the question is telling you, determine the profit that can be maximized. Once you solve and you get your contribution and you have fixed cost elements in the question, how do you get your profit? You make profit the subject of the formula. You can see it here and say contribution minus fixed cost, because when fixed cost cross to the other side of the equation, it becomes what? Negative. So we now have it as what? Contribution less fixed cost to get your profit. So you see questions testing your understanding on this that determine the profit. Once you are asked to determine the profit, you quickly look, what is my total contribution? Total contribution minus fixed cost, I will get my profit. I'll get my profit. So once you determine your contribution per limiting factor, the next thing you do is to rank. The next thing to do is to rank. You can see what I just explained here. Contribution per limiting factor. Your contribution per unit divided by units of the limiting factor. Then once you do that, you rank. The product with the highest contribution will be ranked first. The product with the highest contribution will be ranked first. The next to it will be second, the third, in that order. So rank the contribution per limiting factor. Rank the contribution per limiting factor in descending order. That is highest to lowest. All right, I can see your message, sir. Okay, all right. So in case you want to watch the video, don't procrastinate. I appreciate you watch the video tonight since it's raining in your side, sir. So that I want you to follow as expected. So now, the next step, once you rank, that limiting factor, the quantity you have, you will now apportion it based on the product that will give you the highest contribution. For example, if you have 12,000 kg of material to use to produce the whole product, the product that is giving you the highest contribution per limiting factor, you produce that first, then you move to the next one, then in that order. So why are you giving priority to the products that will give you the highest contribution? Because the essence why you are in business is to make profit. And since the resources are scarce, how well can you utilize that limited resources to the overall goal and objective of the business? Is to look, this resource, if I should put in more resources to product A will give me 100,000. Product B will give me 50,000 overall. Product C will give me 20,000. Is it not better I give more resource to product A that will give me more profit? Is it not better I give more product to product B that will give me more profit after producing A? Then whatever is left, I give to C in that order. So that is the essence of ranking, and that is the essence of coming up with limiting factor analysis. Because in business, you come across circumstances that hinders you from what you want to do. So limiting factor is a constraint that will want to stop you or your business from optimizing profitability. So reason why you need to to ration and give more resource to the product that will give you the best. And that is the essence of limiting factor. Let's take down this question. I intentionally didn't write it down in my slide. I want us to follow. I want everybody to follow. As you write, let what you write make meaning to you. That is why I didn't just put it on the screen, since this is the first example. So now, you can see what I was saying, that you allocate the available limiting factor on the basis of their priority. The total you have, the first rank products, how many kg will you use? You less, in that order. The second rank product, how many kg will you use? You less, in that order. Then whatever is left, you give to the last product. So this will be well explained when we pick an example to solve. So this will be well explained when we solve an example now. So please, you can write down this question. Yes, example. And say Temitope PLC produce the following products. Produce the following products. Please write. I want you to, that is why I didn't arrange this question down. The next question is already on the screen already, but for this, I decided not to, so that we can write and have a good understanding. Produce 3 products, that is X, Y, and Z. X, Y, and Z. So we have demand. Must always insert customers are available for what? For 1,000 units. That is the understanding. If they should produce anything above 1,000 units for X, they will run at loss. Nobody will buy it. For Z, there is a market for 1,500. Now, what are the selling price? Selling price, also take note, per unit. For 1 unit of X, we can sell at 200 naira. 1 unit of Y, we can sell at 150. For 1 unit of Z, we can sell at 120 naira. So the variable cost, for variable cost, we have direct material at 10 naira per kg. 10 naira per kg. Now, how much do you spend overall? This is also in naira. 40 naira. For Y is 50 naira. For Z is what? It's 20 naira. You incur 20 naira overall. I'm just putting the naira sign so that I'm supposed to just put it up. But there is a reason for this. Now we can have the issue of direct labor. Direct labor at 20 naira per hour. at 20 naira per hour, it means we are paying 20 naira per hour, and we overall to produce 1 unit we paid 80 naira for X. For Y overall we paid 60 naira. For Z overall we paid 40 naira. For variable overhead, and see this is defined. Variable overhead to always be defined for limiting factor questions. For variable overhead, let's see. This is incurred at 5 naira, 5 naira, 5 naira. Now on 1 unit we have 5 naira. Overall for X 20 naira. For Y overall we have 15. For Z overall we incur 10. The story is now this, that all products use the same material. All products use the same material, and only 18,000 kg, only 18,000 kg of raw material, only 18,000 kg of raw material only 18,000 kg of raw material is currently available. Is currently available. Only 18,000 kg of raw material is currently available. Required. Prepare a production plan. Prepare a production plan to maximize profits. Maximize profits. Assuming fixed costs. Assuming fixed costs are 25,000 naira. Assuming fixed costs are 25,000 naira. So this is a question, a very simple question on limiting factor. Now, looking at this question, you can see the demand in units. What you can sell for product X is 1,000 units. For Y is 3,000 units. For Z is 1,500 units. The selling price for product X is 200 naira. Y 150 naira. Z 120 naira. Now, in that order, we have direct material, direct labor, variable overhead. Now that all products use the same material, and only 18,000 kg of raw material is currently available. So in this case, what is the limiting factor? You can solve to test, to really know if material is the limiting factor, but it has been clearly put. But where you have labor, you can test. How can you test? You can test in this way. Since we are looking at material, To produce product X, how many kg do you need to produce 1 unit of product X? Can anybody try? How many kg of direct material do you need to produce 1 unit of product X? To buy 1 unit of direct material, you need to spend how much? 10 naira, right? Per kg. To get 1 kg, now overall, you incur 40 naira. How many kg did you pay for?
4.
4. Yes. Can I get response from 4? Okay.
It's 4 kg. 4 kg, sir.
4 kg. So because to buy 1 kg, you need 10 naira. Now you now incur 40 naira overall. It means for me to produce product X, I need how many kg? 4 kg. That is 40 naira divided by what? 10 naira. 40 divided by what? 10 naira. You need 4 kg. Fine. That 4 kg, when you multiply it by the units you have to produce, it will give you what? 4 multiplied by 1,000 will give you what?
4,000.
Write it down, write it down. Even though I will still show the workings, but I want to carry everybody along. 4,000. Now, that is for X. It means you need how many kg to produce 1,000 units of product X? How many kg? You need how many kg? 4,000 kg.
1,000.
4,000 kg. Because when you say 40 naira divided by 10, it will give you 4 kg. It means you paid for 4 kg. 4 kg multiplied by 10 will give you 40 naira. It shows that for you to produce 1 unit of X, you need 4 kg. Is anybody confused with this? Because this is very important. Anybody confused? You can raise up your hand. Because I will just call somebody. You tell me how many kg we use for product Y.
Mr. Tope, can you please come over again?
Uh-huh. It is at this point I used to get question when I say I'll call somebody. Yes. So Ma, this is it, Ma. To produce product X, how much did you incur in terms of direct material?
40 naira.
Very good. 1 kg of direct material is costing you how much?
10 naira.
So when you have 40 naira here, how many kg do you pay for?
4.
How do you know that? Can you tell me?
That's 40 naira divided by 10.
Very good. Naira divided by naira will give you the material. You understand? So 40 naira divided by 10 will give you the kg that you've paid for. So for Y, let's come to Y now. For Y, you paid 50 naira for direct material, and 1 kg costs 10 naira. How many kg have you paid for?
5 kg.
5 kg. 5 kg. You know, they didn't give you the kg directly. In some questions, they will give you the kg directly. But in this case, the examiner decided not to give it to you. That, okay, let's see if you'll be able to get the kg. So 5 kg multiplied by how many units do we have to produce for Y? 3,000. 5 multiplied by 3,000 will give us the total of what? How many kg? 5 multiplied by
That will give
give
us a
us
total of 15,000 kg.
15,000 kg. Fine. 15,000 kg. Write it somewhere. The first one we have 4,000. Now we have 15,000. These are the required quantity of material. Now for product Z, you paid how much for direct material? Naira. Isn't it? For product Z,
2 kg.
kg. So if you need 2 kg to produce product Z, 1 unit of product Z, and you have 1,500 units to produce, how many kg do you need overall?
3,000.
3,000.
3,000 kg.
3,000. So when you add 3,000 plus 15,000 plus 4,000, what is the total kg you need?
22,000 kg.
22,000 kg. But what do you have in the question?
18,000.
18,000. So this shows that material is a limiting factor. For you to meet up with this whole demand, you need higher quantity of material, but you don't have it. Hence, you need to prioritize. You need to prioritize. So that is a way to test for limiting factor. Because there is a question in the ICANN Pathfinder past question. You'll be seeing the examiner is putting it as if labor or material is a limiting factor, or material X and Y. So they are now trying to test our understanding. Which is the limiting factor? Is it material X or Y? But the question did not put it clearly, which is until when you test, when you show this first step, before you'll be able to know, okay, we have this in excess. This is not a problem. But we have this as a constraint. This is the problem. This is where we are going to base our workings on. So that is what the examiners want us to do at that, based on that question. Maybe we'll see the question too. So now, let's since you've discovered that material is actually the limiting factor, what are we now going to do? What are we now going to do? What are we going to do? Solution. 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 So what's I just put forth? Let me just
Mr. Tope, sorry, please.
yes,
We were able to get that material is a limiting factor because we saw that the quantity that we needed of the material in
yes.
direct is higher than
What is available?
what is available. Yes,
Yes.
because I think the first one demand in units is 1,000 units. Abi,
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know if I'm right. Then when we
Yeah.
now calculate, we're able to get 4,000 kg and 15,000 and the rest for direct
Yes.
material. Okay,
Yes.
all right.
So we can just show it this way. Let's just show that step. Identify. Though the question made it clear already, but I'm just showing this step in case of another question so that you will not be confused. So identify the limiting factor. That is the first step. The question has already made it clear, but some question will not come clearly in that order. So we have 3 products, X, Y, and Z. Now we have the demand. Demand for X is 1,000. Demand for Y is 3,000. Demand for Z is what? 1,500. Now, how many kg do you need? Now, we have direct material. Direct material. Direct material. For product X, we need how many kg? We need 40 divided by what? Divide by 10. You need what? You need 4 kg. You need 4 kg. For Y, you need how many? 50 divided by 10. You will use how many kg? 5 kg. And for Z, it will be what? 20 divided by 10 means you will use 2 kg. 2 kg. So total material required for each of the products. Now, this will be what? 4 kg multiplied by what? 1,000 units. It means you need how many kg? You need 4,000 kg. Now, for this, you need how many kg? 5 kg multiplied by what? 3,000 units. You need how many kg overall? You need 15,000 kg. Now, for Z, 2 kg, which is for 1 unit multiplied by the total unit you have to produce, you need how many? 3,000 kg. 3,000 kg. So the total will give you what? 22,000 kg. So it shows that what is available. So available is what? 18,000 kg. So what is the shortfall? Shortfall is how many kg? Shortfall is what? 4,000 kg. 4,000 kg. Are we following, please? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can. I can.
Yes, hear you.
All right, it's fine. So, since this is clear, the next step is what? The next step is what? Can somebody tell me what will be the next step?
So again, one thing.
Determine the contribution
Determine the contribution per
per unit. Per unit.
per unit. Determine the contribution per unit. So determine the contribution per unit. And for you to determine your contribution per unit, what are you going to do? You must know what your selling price is. We have 3 products, X, Y, Z. The selling price for product Z is what? Selling price is what? 200.
$200. For Y is 150.
Y is 150. And for Z
120.
is 120. Is 120. So to get our contribution, it will now be what? We look for our variable cost, less variable cost. Less variable cost. Less variable cost. So what are the variable costs in this question?
For
Variable cost, we have direct material. For X, the cost is what? 40. We have it as 40. For Y, it is what? 50.
50.
For Z, it's 20. The other variable cost is what? We have direct labor. Direct labor. The value of direct labor is what? For X,
For X, 80.
80. And for Y is what? 60. And for Z is what? 40. Any other form of we have variable overhead.
Variable overhead.
Variable overhead for X is what? Is 20. For Y is what? 15. And for Z is what? 10. With this, we can determine your contribution per unit. So 200 minus 40 minus 80 minus 20 will give you what?
60 naira.
So for this, we have it as 60 naira. For this, 150 minus 50 minus 60 minus 15, we have it as what? 25.
25 naira.
150 minus 20 minus 40 minus 10, we have it as 50.
50 naira.
So this is your contribution per unit. Your contribution per unit.
15.
Haven't determined. Any question at this point, please? Because I'm expecting everybody to understand this. In case you have it's still looking like a magic, you can just pick. We'll revisit it. So now, once you determine your contribution per unit, what will be the next thing to do? What will be the next thing to do?
Contribution per limiting factor.
Yes, contribution per limiting factor. But for you to determine your contribution per limiting factor, what do you need to determine in relation to the limiting factor? What will you look for in that limiting factor? The quantity required to produce what? 1 unit. 1 unit of each of the products. The limiting factor quantity required to produce 1 unit. 1 unit. Even though we've determined that to produce 1 unit of X, the limiting factor is material. How many kg of material do you need to produce 1 unit of X? Can you tell me if you are writing?
1,000.
You are not writing.
1,000.
No, to produce 1 unit of product X, how many kg do you need?
4,000 kg.
Okay, 4
4 kg.
4 kg.
Okay.
Okay,
4
4 kg.
kg. For 1 unit.
4 kg.
Yes. So to produce 1,000 units is when you need 4,000. But for 1 unit, you need what? 4 kg.
Okay.
So is this 1 unit quantity that you need to determine what your contribution per limiting factor. Contribution per, all we are doing here is based on 1 unit. You see it per unit. So you can move further. You can move further to determine contribution.
Yeah, for
Fine. That one now.
just 5 eggs for me and oats. It's very
I have to mute that my
Mute
guy.
your mic.
I have to mute him. He didn't recognize that his his mic is on. Don't let me speak to that discussion. Let's ride on. So now, contribution per unit. To determine your contribution per limiting factor. Contribution per limiting factor. You need your contribution per unit divided by what? Let me take you to the steps. See it. Contribution per unit divided by what? Unit of the limiting factor. Unit of the limiting factor. So now, since you know your contribution per unit, contribution per unit for X is what? 60, right? 60
yes.
divided by
Yes.
unit of the limiting factor. Unit of the limiting factor to produce product X is what?
4.
4 kg. 4 kg. So what will now be your contribution per limiting factor here?
15.
15 naira. For Y, your contribution per unit is what? 25. What is the unit of the limiting factor required to produce Y?
That's 5.
5 kg. So your contribution per limiting factor will now be what?
5 naira.
5 naira.
5 naira. Fine. Now, coming to Z, your contribution per unit is what? 50.
Okay, 50 over 2.
50. So how many kg do you need to produce 1 unit of Z?
2 kg.
That's 2 kg.
2 kg. So this will give you a contribution per limiting factor of what?
25 naira.
5
25.
naira.
So what will now be the next thing?
You rank.
Ranking.
Ranking. Why are you ranking? Tell me.
So we'll rank because we want to know the one that we should invest more on, the one that will yield us more profit, I think.
For proper
Okay.
allocation of resources.
Yeah, or proper
Yes.
allocation.
Yes, for proper use of resources, because it does not make sense. Z is giving you more money. You want to go and invest in Y. Z is giving you more money. You want to go and prioritize X. So you need to see how you use your resources to produce more of Z, to get more money rather than running to other products. That is the essence of ranking. So which is ranking first?
Z, that's 25 naira.
So you write first. Second
Is X,
and third,
Y.
Y. So once you do this, the quantity of material you have, the maximum quantity of material you have is what? From the question.
18,000.
18,000 kg. So
Mr.
what
Monday, why are you
what
not
will
looking at me at that time? Good night.
So once you determine your ranking and you know the maximum of the material that you have, what will you now do? What will you do? What will be the next step?
Allocate.
You allocate. That allocation will form the basis of your production plan. It means your planning will be based on the allocation, on the ranking. So now you allocate, and that allocation is still your production plan. That will be your plan, your guide to what you produce. Production plan. Production plan. Allocation. So now, in some of your reading tests, I always say this, they will present this production plan in a different way, but all will give you same results. Will give you same results. So I discovered that presenting it in a way that will confuse students does not make sense. So let's present it in a way that will be fine to us and we'll still get the same mark, rather than going in a way where we start confusing ourselves. It's a very simple thing. Now, based on the material we have, the total material available is what?
18,000.
18,000.
18,000. You have 18,000 kg. 18,000 kg. Now, which is the first rank product? Product Z.
Z.
Now, how many kg? How many kg of material do you need to produce 1,500 units? Because that is the demand. Demand 15.
3,000.
So
3,000 kg.
first ranked product. First ranked product. Products Z. You need 2 kg for 1 unit, and you need to produce 1,500. I'm still showing the working, just repetition. So it means you need total of how many kg? 3,000
kg.
3,000 kg. When you less 3,000 kg from 18,000 kg, what will be your balance?
15,000 kg.
15,000.
15,000 kg. 15,000 kg. Which is the next rank product?
X.
Product X. X. Product X. So how many kg of material do you need? Second ranked product. Second rank product. Product X. For product X, to produce 1 unit, you need 4 kg, right?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
And you need to produce how many units? 1,000.
1,000 units.
4 kg multiplied by 1,000.
4,000.
4,000.
4,000 kg. The balance will now be
11,000 kg.
Who is having a question? I see somebody raised his or her hand the other time. Let me check the message, the chat box. Okay, I should share my slide now. All right, let me reshare it. So can you see it, ma? Okay, you can send a message on the chat box. Wow, you can still see it. Can you log out and log in again? Even when I still try to reshare. I've reshared it again. Just 1 minute, please. All right, fine. So now you have a balance of what? 11,000 kg, right? We have a balance of 11,000 kg. The next rank product is what? The
Product
next
Y.
rank product Y. That is the third product
Yes.
Y. Fine. So third ranked products. Product Y. Now let's do one analysis. For product Y, we have how many units to produce? 3,000, right?
3,000 units. Yes, sir.
So to produce these 3,000 units, how many kg of material do we need
5 kg.
for 1 unit? So for
For 1 unit,
3,000,
yes.
for 3,000,
15,000 kg, sir. 15,000
15,000
kg, sir.
kg. Do you still have 15,000 kg as your balance?
No, sir. I have just 11,000 kg.
So what are we going to do? Since you don't have 15,000 kg, you cannot go and get it from anywhere. That is the limitation. You make do with what you have to produce the quantity that 11,000 kg will give you for product Y. So you make do with what? 11,000 kg. So the question will now be, how many units of product Y can I produce using 11,000 kg?
11,000 kg. Oh, nice.
So you will still ask yourself a question. To produce 1 unit of product Y, how many kg of material do I need? You need to ask yourself that question. So you ask yourself, how many kg to produce Y? You need how many kg to produce 1
5
unit?
kg, sir. 5
You need
kg,
5
sir.
kg to produce 1 unit. Now, I'm giving you 11,000 kg. Make use of it and produce product Y with it. How many units can you come up with?
2,200 units.
That will be 11 by 12.
Yes. 11,000 kg divide by what?
5.
5 kg. I'm
5
taking my
kg.
time to explain this point because this is where confusion usually sets in. So I don't want anybody to get confused in this class, in this region. Anything that is your balance, go and look. The next product I'm to produce 1 unit of that product, how many kg do I need? If it is 5, you divide the balance by that. To give you the units you can produce. So
Produce.
you can produce how many units here?
2,200.
200 units. When you multiply 2,200 units by 5 kg, it will give you what?
11,000 kg.
So that is how you exhaust and utilize the material. So now your balance will now be what?
0, sir.
Your balance will be 0. So this will form the basis of your allocation. So balance will be 0. Balance will be 0. Is this the end of the question? Let's go back to the question. All products use the same material and only 18,000 kg of raw material is currently available. Required. Prepare a production plan. You've done that. To maximize profit, assuming fixed costs are what?
25,000 naira.
So to get your profit, what is the formula?
Contribution minus
Selling price.
contribution minus fixed cost. Contribution minus fixed cost. Contribution minus fixed cost. That is what will give you your profits. So now, how are we going to get our contribution? There are two approaches. I'm going to show the two approach to get your contribution, to get your profit rather, and also to get your contribution. So now let's look at it. Profits. To get our profits, we need contribution and fixed cost. So what will be our contribution? What will be our contribution for each of the products? For product Z, let me go this way. For product Z, product X, because these are the products I'm writing based on the order of production. For product Z, we produce how many units? 3,000. How many units? 1,500, right? 1,500. So 1,500 multiplied by
50.
by your contribution per unit will give you what? 1,500 multiplied by contribution per unit now. The contribution per unit is 50, right?
Yes, sir.
This will give us what?
75,000.
75,000. For Z, we produce how many units? Based on our plan, 1,000.
Yes.
So 1,000 multiplied by the contribution per unit is what?
60.
Yeah. So your contribution here will be what? 60,000.
50,000, yeah.
For Y, we are able to produce how many units?
2,200.
2,200 units. Contribution per unit is what? 25.
25.
When you multiply, you have what? 55,000. So overall, your total contribution will be what when you add everything? Your total contribution will be what? It should be 190. Confirm, please. Then you less your fixed cost. Your fixed cost in the question is what?
25,000.
So your profit will now be what? Contribution minus fixed cost. Your profit will now be what?
One 65,000.
Okay, 165.
Yes.
165,000. So you can see it. Now, please, in your notes, when you use contribution per unit, you multiply by what? The units produced. Take note. We can use contribution per limiting factor. We'll still get the same result. Let's try it. Let me say all. All right, I'm with you. Yes.
Sorry, sir.
Yes.
No question, sir. Don't worry.
Okay. So we can do it in another way. Same thing. We'll get same result. We can get our contribution. Please don't get confused. So you can adopt any concept you want, any approach. You will get the same result. I just want to show it for knowledge purpose. Now, we can use the raw material. When you are using the raw material for product Z, how many kg did you use? You use how many kg? 3,000 kg. 3,000 kg for product Z. What is your contribution per limiting factor for Z? Can you tell me? Your contribution per limiting factor is what? For Z?
50. 50 naira.
No, sir, see it. Per limiting. Not contribution per unit. Per limiting now. Say it, sir. 25.
25 naira.
So when you are using raw material, you can match raw material with contribution per limiting factor. When you are using demand or sales, you can match it with contribution per unit. So that is just what I want to show. So we are using kg here now. Kg, the raw material. You can multiply it by what? Your contribution per limiting factor. And this will give you what? This is 25. When you multiply it, this will give you what? Can you help me do the computation? It should give you 75 still.
75.
Yes, 75. 75. For X, the kg used is what? 4,000 kg. So 4,000 kg. 4,000 kg. Multiply by what now? Can I get an answer from you? Multiply by what?
60.
Multiply by what?
Multiply by 50. No, multiply by 15. Sorry.
By 15. Multiply by 15. Multiply by 15. I'm asking because I want to be very sure you understand what we're doing. When you are using kg, you use contribution per limiting factor. So you use these values 15, 5, 25. When you are using demand or sales, you use contribution per unit. You understand? That is
Yes,
where I'm driving at. That is what I'm trying to. So 4,000 kg multiply by what? 15.
50. That will
We
give us
give
60.
we give you
60.
60. We give you 60,000. When it is Y. So can somebody help me with Y? We produce how many units? Or we use how many kg material? 11,000.
No.
11,000 kg we use. That is what we use. That is what was left, and we use for Y. So 11,000 kg multiplied by what? Contribution per limiting factor, which is 5. See it here, 5 naira. You're going to have what? You're going to have 55,000. So when you add everything, you're going to have what? 75 plus 60 plus 55. You're going to have what?
Yes,
You still have 190.
yes,
You still have 190.
190.
Yes. So when you less your fixed costs to give you what?
Our fixed cost was 165.
So you can see, I'm showing this so that when you see somewhere else, it is being presented in diverse ways. You will not say, I have not seen it before. Understand? So whichever approach you choose to adopt, you are fine. Yes. So I've just decided to show this. Over time, I don't used to show it in my class. I decided to show it so that because sometimes when you show two things, some students can just get confused. But I think we should be fine. Whichever one you choose to do, you are correct. Yes. So this is what this question wants you to do. Any question, please? So that when I give my own question, you will not complain. At this point, any question? So this is my own question for you, so that you go and solve. You solve now, sir. There is no going back, not tomorrow. So this is a question. Also a very simple one. I will help you read. Let me help you read so that you give me my answer. That sausage makes two products, the mash and the sauce. Unit variable cost as follows. Direct material for mesh, $1, for sauce, $3. Direct labor, you can see in brackets, $3 per hour. $3 per hour. And we spent how much? $6 for mesh, $3 for sauce. Variable overhead. You can see defined clearly, not overhead, not fixed, but variable. We have 1 for mesh, sauce 1. Total variable cost for mesh 8, for sauce 7. The sales price per unit is $14 per mesh and $11 per sauce. During July, the available direct labor is limited to, you can see this shows this is the limiting factor, limited to 8,000 hours. Can somebody screenshot and send it to the platform, please? You can just take a screenshot and send to the platform. I don't have my WhatsApp on my system. I might not be able to do that very fast. So
Please, can you go back to the previous slide? Let me just screenshot the last part, please.
all right, I'll do that. Let me conclude this so that you screenshot this one, then I'll go back to that slide. So the sales price per unit is $14 per mesh and $11 per sauce. During July, the available direct labor is what? Is limited to 8,000 hours. Sales demand in July is expected to be as follows. These are what you have demand for. Mesh, you can sell 3,000 units. Sauce, 5,000 units. Required. Determine the production budget that will maximize what? Profit, assuming that fixed costs per month are what? $20,000, and that there is no opening inventory of finished goods or work in progress. So this is not far-fetched from what we've done. So I will need you people to solve and share your solution on the group within the next few minutes. It took us time because I was explaining. Yes. So because I was explaining. So now just do sharp. Get your contribution per unit. Get your so this is the last slide, man.
Thank you, sir.
Get your contribution per unit. Get your contribution per limiting factor. Allocate. Then rank. Then you allocate. Then you get your total contribution. You minus your fixed cost from total contribution. Then you get your profit. That is what the question wants you to do. So I'll be waiting. I'm here with you. I want to see your solution. If you have any issue, let me know. I'm waiting for your solution. So our contribution is what? Our contribution for source for mesh. For mesh, your contribution is what? That is contribution per unit now.
I got 6 and 4.
6 for mesh, source 4. I'm saying they check the chat first. Check the chat first. Your device is making noise. I don't know if you can hear us. So contribution per unit for mesh is 6. For source is what? 4. So the units, if labor hour is the limiting factor, how many hours do you need to produce 1 unit of mesh? How many hours do you need to produce 1 unit of source? Okay, I can see profit is 9,000. Somebody have solved already. That profit is 9,000. Sharp, sharp. Okay, you are very correct. So can you tell me what is the, how many hours do you need to produce 1 unit of mesh, 1 unit of source?
For mesh, 2 hours for mesh and 1 hour for source.
Okay, 2 hours for mesh.
1 hour for source. So
You can unmute yourself. so that we hear you.
Okay. The number of hours required for mesh will be 2 hours times 3,000. That's 6,000 hours. And for source is 1 hour times 5,000. 5,000 units. That's 5,000 hours, giving us a total of 11 hours as the total number of hours required. And we have 8,000 hours as the available labor hours. So it gives us a shortfall of 3,000 hours, indicating that direct labor is the limiting factor. So thereafter, I calculated the contribution. I got $6 for mesh and $4 for source. Then divided by the limiting factor, the unit of the limiting factor for mesh is 2 hours and for source is 1 hour. So the contribution per limiting factor for mesh is $3 and for source is $4. So when I ranked, source is the first because it has the highest contribution per limiting factor and mesh is second. Then I allocated first to source. I removed the 5,000 hours from
1 hour.
8,000, meaning that I already allocated 5,000 units. So I had 3,000 hours left. So the balance will be allocated to mesh. I now divided the 3,000 by the number of hours, 2 hours. So I got 1,500 units. So the production plan will be to produce 1,500 units of mesh and 5,000 units of source. So I applied it to the contribution per unit and I got contribution for mesh as 9,000, contribution for source as 20,000, giving a total contribution of 29,000. Then I removed the fixed cost of 20,000, giving a profit of 9,000.
All right, thank you very much. Is it that you've solved this question before, or this is the first time you're doing it?
I just solved this now with the explanation you gave. Let me drop my notes.
All right, that is a very good one. Yes, a very good one. Yes. Who else again have been able to arrive at this point of having 9,000? But if you're having any issues, challenge, you can speak up, please, so we address it together before we call it a day. And I'll also send a question again so that maybe when next we meet, we look at it. But I would like you to attempt it first before I come to talk about it. I will send a question from the icon past question so that you can express your knowledge on it and see what you can do. But before we go on this class exercise, you know you are having issues at one point. Just speak up now so we can address it so that you won't go to bed without understanding what to do on these assignments or class exercise. So the floor is open. So Madam Abigail, she's fine. Ayode Oloyede, are you okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. Mr. Charles, are you fine, sir?
Sir, like I said, I will go over the lectures again and then do the needful because the my screen went blank, but I've been
Okay.
following via audio, so I'll
All
use
right.
that to with the video
Okay.
do
So
something.
sorry about that.
Yes, sir. Thank
So
you, sir.
Mr. Henoman, are we fine? Okay. I hope you are not on the dining table already.
No. I was actually driving, so I just got home and I was trying to. I just started. I've gotten to the constitution and I'm good. I'm just trying to run on the other part. But
Okay,
I'm
okay,
trying to.
okay. All right, fine. Mr. Johnson.
Well, sir, I'm a little bit stuck on the way, but then I believe when I go through the video again, I'll be able to.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
okay. But can you share the place where you are stuck? Let's see. Somebody else might also be stuck at that point.
Of course,
So,
at a point, the network was logging in out, and I was trying to read what's it called. But then, from what the first exercise, the question that you treated, and I was trying to, but I looked at it that the question is not the same, so I was unable to attempt it. So that was
okay, okay, okay. It shows network issue affects your concentration.
yeah.
All right. Okay. Okay, I'll forward the video. But once you watch and you are not clear, just let me know.
It's okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Madam Temitope, you should be fine. these
Yes, sir.
are
I'm
these
good, sir.
are these are students that circumstances allow them to write. So so Madam Ugoke, are you okay? Are you fine, ma? With the
Good evening, sir.
good evening, ma.
I went out. I'm so sorry. I had a visitor.
Wow, your case is a special one. So you watch the video, but please, I want you to be very committed. Yes, sometimes when we send the video, students find it difficult to access to go back to watch the video again. So that is why um, I'm taking the class serious and personal, because sometimes it's not even that I'm the one to go and click on that link I will send. I'm going to be listening to, except you are so determined. That is when you will do that. So my Madam Afiniki, you should be fine. So
Very fine, sir.
all right. So we'll call it a day for tonight. So
This one.
I will I will expect everyone to be okay. I will still expect to see your solution on the group. Yeah, so that I will
Yes, sir.
know that you are very okay, you are fine. I'll also send another question tonight. So you look at it. But please don't solve the question I will forward tonight if you've not attempted this. So you can go over the class exercise again, and then you attempt this one. This go over the class example, the first example, then the class exercise. If you are okay, then you can now read the question I will forward to the group. So that is the progression. That is the progression. That is how the learning will go. So don't just jump to the question in the icon pathfinder or past question. So you follow it step by step in that order. So thank you very much, everybody. See you
Thank you very much, sir.
on
Do
Friday.
have a restful night. Yes, sir.
Thank
All
you,
right.
sir.
Thank you.
Good night.
Right.